Hi, this is Jill Barr. My informative speech today is going to be on the environmental impact of a meat-based diet. Where's the beef? Eating too much meat is no good for our health, with overindulgence linked to increasing rates of heart disease, cancer, and obesity. According to a Scientific American article, between 1971 and 2010, production of meat tripled to around 600 billion pounds, while global population grew 81%, meaning we are eating a lot more meat than our grandparents. Researchers extrapolate that global meat production will double by 2050 to about 1.2 trillion pounds a year, putting further pressure on the environment and human health. The environmental impact of our choice in food begins with deforestation, the way we feed our livestock, and the consumption of lamb, beef, and cheese. As referenced in this Scientific American article, red meat is responsible for 10 to 40 times as many greenhouse gas emissions as vegetables and grains. Through a unique digestive process called enteric fermentation, cows, sheep, and other ruminant livestock constantly release substantial amounts of methane, a greenhouse gas 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Pigs and chickens do not emit methane. Lamb, beef, and cheese have the highest emissions, constantly generating methane through their digestive process. Lamb generates more emissions per kilo, in part because it produces less edible meat relative to the sheep's weight. Beef has the second highest emissions, generating 27.1 kilos of carbon dioxide per kilo consumed. That's more than twice the emissions of pork, nearly 4 times that of chicken, and more than 13 times that of vegetable proteins such as beans, lentils, and tofu. About 30% of meat consumed in America is beef. Cheese, the third highest contributor to the effects on the environment. It turns out that cheese may do as much harm to the environment as some kinds of meat. Based on Nina Rastogi, the production of a 1.5-ounce serving of cheese might be expected to produce around 16 ounces of carbon dioxide equivalent. It doesn't start with the consumption of lamb, beef, or cheese. How we process the feed for these animals is also a contributing factor. The process for growing livestock feed produces copious amounts of nitrous oxide. Livestock are typically fed corn, soybean meal, and other grains, which have to be grown using large amounts of fertilizer, fuel, pesticides, water, and land. Excuse me. The Environmental Working Group estimates that growing livestock feed in the U.S. alone requires 167 million pounds of pesticides and 17 billion pounds of nitrogen fertilizer each year across some 149 million acres of cropland. There are many arguments to which is greener, grass-fed or grain-fed. Because of the inefficiencies of nitrogen uptake by plants and animals, only about 10 to 15% of reactive nitrogen ever enters a human mouth as food. The rest is lost to the environment. When the manure of livestock is not used as a fertilizer or left in fields during grazing, it has to be kept for treatment and disposal in animal waste management systems. Many of these systems create conditions that are favorable for nitrous oxide producing bacteria. Animal waste generates methane and nitrous dioxide. Livestock in confined feedlots generate about 500 million tons of manure a year, 3 times the waste produced by the entire U.S. population. Excuse me. There are benefits and drawbacks to both pesticides and fertilizer. The clearing of trees for the conversion of land and development of farms has contributed to the additional greenhouse gases in the environment. The Dictionary of Deforestation notes that deforestation is linked to cattle ranching. Excuse me. Water pollution from factory farms, also called concentrated animal feeding operations or CAFOs, whereby pigs and other livestock are contained in tight quarters, can produce as much sewage waste as a small city. Cattle ranching is also popular because of the low production cost and land tenure policies that promote forest clearance rather than sustainable forest management. Preventing deforestation is compatible with the growth of the cattle sector in Brazil. Improvements to pasture and herd management could allow substantial increases in the Amazon cattle herd on existing pasture. This can be achieved while improving the profitability of the ranching sector and safeguarding the ecological values of the Amazon. In conclusion, for those who can't give up meat fully, cutting back goes a long way toward helping the environment, as does choosing meat and dairy products from organic, pasture-raised, grass-fed animals. Scientific Daily concludes that reducing meat consumption and using more efficient farming methods globally are essential to stave off irreversible damage to the environment. The research also found that future increases in agricultural sustainability are likely to be driven by dietary shifts and increases in efficiency, rather than changes between food production systems. Thank you. I hope that you are more informed about the environmental impact of a meat-based diet.